All right, so we got a little bit of different session for you today. I know you guys have been following along with Heather and all of her awesomeness that she teaches you guys about different tactics and whatnot. And improving your pharmacy obviously takes a lot of different ways. Lord, don't I wish there was just like one thing I could all tell you to do and it would magically change your pharmacy. This session actually might be close to answering that. If you were to honestly say, like, what is one thing I could do or one skill set that I could get better at? It might be this one. I know many of you are addicted to revenue and profit and new revenue streams, and like those are fun things to play in. But if you have a rocky, rotting foundation, none of those are going to work. So I am super excited to kind of take a little bit of a different angle of this. And let me get we don't really have a whole lot of slides today, but we have a few, you know, and with you today. So we are not going to be discussing a specific tactic, like a profit tactic or a supplement or something like that. What we're going to be talking about today is truly more foundational to not just a successful pharmacy, which is, what we all want on this call, but a successful life, like successful marriage, successful parenting, successful friendships, like all the things that you need and want in happiness in life. This is gonna happen for you. So I'm super excited to be talking about this. This session, we're naming it after the future summit session, which is we are going to be talking about how to make more money, have better sex, improve your relationships, reconnect with your kids, lead teams to new heights, save democracy, and don't forget the all-important brokering world peace, all by the end of business on Monday. And you're like, how in the heck can we tackle that in a webinar or tackle that in a summit session? Well, that is because of the guest that we have. So before we get to the guest, as always, for those of you that are Pharmacy Badass University members, this is our Pharmacy Profit Matrix. We are down here. I call this kind of like CEO skills, right? The thing that we're going to be talking about today is really developing, kind of your leadership, teammate, human skills. So that is where you will find recordings and resources for this. And so really quick, for those of you that don't know me, I am Dr. Lisa Faast, owner of DiversifyRx, and I host the Pharmacy Profit Summit, which we're going to be talking about today. And you can always get in touch with me. drlisafaast.com is probably the easiest way if you have questions that you want to submit. Obviously, those of you that are members, you submit through the membership, and we'll get your answers there. Now, drum roll. I can't do a drum roll. My guest today is one of our esteemed speakers that I frankly am so excited to be having at the summit this coming year in March. His name is Bradley James Davies, and I hope that you get to know him intimately over these next several months leading up to the summit and after the summit, because what he talks about is, frankly, it's not the sexy stuff that, maybe makes us happy. It's not a new revenue stream or not a new supplement to sell. But his skill set is really going to, I think, transform the way that you look at the world through your eyes, kind of thing. So he is an author, he's a speaker, and he is a listener. And we're going to dive into that today. So this is going to be kind of a coffee house conversation. I'm going to be talking with Bradley. We're going to be talking about listening. He is a professional listener. And we're going to be just kind of having this conversation of really framing it up, why it's so important and why as we as humans mess up this core skill set. It's not like riding a bike, like you actually have to work at it, So Bradley, welcome to this. Thank you so much for speaking at the summit. Thank you so much for doing this. And please tell everybody, kind of introduce yourself, tell us your journey of how you became a professional listener.
Hey everybody, thrilled to be here. And Lisa, thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I'm Bradley James Davies, and I am a professional listener, and I am writing the book that everyone believes their partner should read. And which means everyone believes that their parents should read or their business partner should read. And I believe it's the book that hopefully everyone on the planet will want to read because I agree with Lisa. My fundamental mission is helping teach the world how to listen better. And it's anchored in a belief that I think it's the one thing, listening skills, that changes everything. So I hope y'all, after our time together today, do believe that, wow, listening is the new sexy. Like we can make more money as we leverage these listening skills. We can have better sex. We can have closer relationships. We can win the next election. We can broker world peace. We can survive the zombie apocalypse with the listening skills, tips, tricks that I teach. So excited to be here. My journey to listening started years ago when I left my professional work of leading schools and entered into executive leadership coaching. And the training I received at Georgetown University obviously pivoted me into a new direction vocationally. But y'all, it really changed my life. And I recognized very clearly that the through line and bottom line of every success and struggle I have had, personally and professionally, was anchored in my ability to listen well or not. So based on that truly transformational experience, I thought, wow, this is a super easy superpower to learn with incredible ROI across all elements of our lives. So I'm excited to share it with all types of groups and pharmacy group, humans leading these dynamic small businesses. Listening is perfectly positioned to help y'all move the needle in the direction you want it to go.
I like how you call it a superpower because when I've talked to this about a few people, because I've been giddy about having you at the summit, and I talk a little bit about like listening, they're, they get the look on their face like, like Lisa,
Yes.
you really, we thought you were crazy, but maybe you've, gone fully. And so, how do you overcome that reaction of like when, when you're talking to people, and obviously I work with pharmacy owners, have hundreds of them in our membership. How do you get them to understand that, like, although we hear each other, but how do you get them to understand the difference between hearing and listening?
It's a fundamentally fantastic question, and it's at the heart of the challenge of my work. Oftentimes, most of us believe that we listen pretty well. And I call it the listening lie, Lisa. And it's a lot like the how am I driving lie. You drive around, and most people on the planet think I'm a pretty good driver. But when you're driving around, imagine you're on the highway, Lisa, almost everyone you think is either driving a little too slow or a little too fast. And so that how am I driving lie is very similar to the listening lie. And I think, the folks on this call will appreciate just the data. And forgive me, I'm from Minnesota, so I don't like to offend anyone. But I'm just going to kick you in the shins a little bit and try to convince you that we're actually pretty lousy listeners. So check out the data. This guy, Oscar Trimboli, wrote this really helpful book called How to Listen. And in it, he cites a big macro survey of Fortune 500 company employees. And it was a survey on a number of cultural factors. But one of the series of questions was, how do you rate yourself as a listener? And get this, 74.8% of those surveyed rated themselves as average to above average listeners. Okay, get this next stat. They then were asked, how would you rate your colleagues in their ability to listen? And the statistics are staggering. 12.1% of respondents rated their colleagues as average to above average listeners. So there's a gigantic disconnect there. And so what I offer people is imagine a world where only 12.1% of us feel as though we're listened to well. Imagine a family where only 12.1 children feel as though they're listened to well by their parents or by their teachers. Lovers listened to by their partners. Business partners listen to each other. Customers listened to by their local pharmacies. Even if we don't trust this data as that disconnect between 75% basically and 12%, imagine if we double that. Only 25% of humanity feels as though they're listened to. Or we triple the results, only 1 in 3. You start to see that there's a listening lie going on here. There's a big, ironically, blind spot about how we listen well. And there are reasons to that I'm happy to get into. But what I beg folks to understand is it was premise I had that I thought I was a pretty good listener. Turns out I had a long way to go. And what I'm learning through this data in my work as a professional listener, speaking up for listening around the world, there's a big light bulb that goes off between, wow, three-quarters of us think we're pretty gosh darn good at this. Turns out the people in our lives don't necessarily agree.
How do you define listening? Because I might have a different, interpretation of that. So how should we all be defining listening? And what's that measuring stick of like a good listener, as you say?
Hmm. I'll define listening and then we'll get into what a good listener is. Listening is hearing plus intention. Hearing plus intention is listening, just like influence plus intention is leadership, or love plus intention equals a relationship. Intention are these choosing our choices, choosing best practices, choosing these tips and tricks that I teach to really invest our best selves and our full selves into a conversation. And that's the real challenge to get to your second question of what is a good listener? A good listener is someone who is able to fill the distraction delta with their full intention and attention. So just real quick, the good news here is, hey, bad news is we're lousy listeners. Good news is it's not your fault. A lot of things to blame here. And first of all, it's our brain. So I'll just nerd out on some brain science for folks. And we've got doctor folks on the call. So I think folks will appreciate the nerding out here. Hold these three numbers in tension: 150, 300, 3,000. 150, the number of words per minute human beings can speak. And now the research on this varies a little bit. It can be as low as 125 up to 150. This is your auctioneer talking super fast. This is your kid on Christmas morning who just can't get all the words out fast enough. This is talking. This is as fast as humans can possibly talk. 150. 300 is the number of words per minute humans can listen to. And that makes sense to us, right? The way we listen to our podcasts, et cetera. Most of us go 1.5, 1.75, that we can listen a lot faster than words come out of people's mouths. This last number is the real wowza. 3,000, number of words per minute human beings can think. Now, again, the research can go down to as low as 900 words per minute, but one study I found it up to 3,000 words per minute, which resonates with me as an overthinker. I'm like, okay, there's 3,000 words per minute going round and round. So a good listener is someone who can navigate that distraction delta. Lisa, you come to me as a close friend and you have a challenge. You're like, hey, Bradley, can I talk to you? Of course. So we sit down to a cup of coffee. You have 3,000 words per minute going on in your head and heart. You can only get those out at 150 words per minute. Meanwhile, I wish I could like 1.5 or 2x you. Like, come on, Lisa, get it out. I can take up to 300. But look at this. The 300 and that 3,000, I have 2,700 words per minute of a delta of distraction just lingering there. Squirrel, phone, thoughts about what I should say to Lisa. What am I going to ask next? So and through my training, what I try to do with great success, because this is a superpower that actually is super easy to learn, is a great listener spans that distraction delta to be fully present, engaging with these tips and tricks and tactics that I teach to be fully present with the person who's in that sacred space sharing. And truly, in that sacred space can be day-to-day operations in a pharmacy, customer to pharmacy representative. These are sacred moments. And I think the pharmacy context is really true. We're talking about people's health. So this is truly important to them. They got a lot going on here, honoring that space to let them get it out and really owning that distraction delta with these tips and tricks to be fully present. That is an exquisite listener. And it's not as hard as people think.
That was going to be my question. Was I can completely see how this has life-altering impacts on your more intimate relationships, your friendships, your romantic relationships, your professional relationships, kind of like that one-to-one. You briefly kind of mentioned on how it works on the, like on a pharmacy space, but maybe just expound on that a little bit, because obviously everybody on this call owns a pharmacy, runs a pharmacy. So, how does it translate as a business, becoming a better listener as a business, which is made up of a bunch of human beings, obviously, but just because obviously we want to help them make more money and help them run their businesses better.
Yeah.
So obviously there's all one-to-one relationships in there, which is kind of where my 3,000 words per minute thinking is. But, ultimately it's the business that has to listen better as a whole.
So the goal of next level listening is more information and more intimacy, more content, more connection. So you're the expert on the pharmacy space. So I'll soon pose the question to you of what does a pharmacy owner or leader do on a daily basis? And in that context, what would benefit from more information and more intimacy, more content, more connection? On a granular level, I'm just someone who humbly goes to a pharmacy. When I'm going into a pharmacy, I have a need. And it might even be an embarrassing need. It might be, or I'm feeling lousy. I'm in a fragile place. So, in terms of this pharmacy partnering with me and in terms of my health, what would benefit the pharmacy more than more information? What's really going on, Bradley? Because what I'm going to present will be safe initially. There's more to the story of what's going on inside me, and I'm not the expert. I don't really know. So more information helps you guys provide me with the care I need. More intimacy, more connection, more trust. Now I feel comfortable. I have such a good experience. It was such a compassionate listening context where I was able to share in a safe space. Now the next time where life throws a curveball my way, I know I want to go back there. That's a caring, safe space. So that's one element that I can imagine just as a consumer, where more information and more intimacy will help. I also understand we're running small businesses. There are a million decisions to be done each day, and there is not a decision made on this planet that would not benefit from more information. You think about playing poker. If you could literally see the other people's cards, that's more information. Would that not inform how you bet or lay down your cards? Of course. Again, extrapolate that into your personal lives. In what element of your relational ecosystem would not benefit from more information, more intimacy? And we can get into the granularity of it. I'll tell you one big mistake that I made as a leader that I am exposed to in my coaching of leaders is the fact that I used to talk first. You're at a leadership team table, you got your 5 or 6 lead team members, and you have an idea of a new revenue opportunity, a new silo, a new product, new approach. And so you come to that table as leader and you say, hey, y'all, I would love your perspectives on XYZ. No civilian on the planet would think that you just committed a leadership misstep in the context of next level listening. But what I teach leaders to understand is you actually are the elephant in the room. And the power dynamic at play when you walk in the room switches immediately. So you have this idea for XYZ new revenue. You offer that to your team. From a next level listening standpoint and a power dynamic standpoint, you've placed them in a very difficult position. How do I raise my hand and say, Lisa, actually, I'm not so sure about that? When the leader is so enthusiastic about it. Instead, next level listeners, next level leaders go last. They speak last. You've got this idea of XYZ. Instead of saying, hey, I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on XYZ. And of course, Lisa wants to push back. Lisa's awesome. She's nice. But instead, you say, hey, I've been considering other revenue opportunities. What thoughts do y'all have? Lo and behold, Billy on your team says, actually, I've been thinking about XYZ. That's the same idea you had. And now you're able to say, well, Billy, what are your thoughts? Let's explore that more. And before you know it, it's the team's idea. And you have great buy-in because you just chose to speak last. So all these next level listening tactics, tips, and tricks, they engender and they bring forth more information and more intimacy, which moves every needle in your life, including profitability, revenue growth, etc.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I'm glad you brought up mistakes because, and I will plan. We will work on figuring out how to get a survey like that out to our people because I think that would be completely interesting. I think as healthcare providers, going through, especially those of us that are like pharmacists and whatnot, like we're kind of taught how to listen, like how to, talk to patients and have those kinds of conversations. And so I do think that healthcare providers, probably as a group, is even more biased that they're better listeners than maybe the average human being. That's just a hypothesis there, but I will figure out how to do a survey on that. I was going to kind of ask, like, what's the biggest mistake? Like, where does that overconfidence, and you kind of alluded to it that you speak first, and I think maybe just tease that out a little bit, that I think we bulldoze the people around us, and we don't, and it's almost like the survivor bias. It's like, well, since you, the leader, have said this, everybody else is going to be like, oh, yeah, gee, chippers, that's fantastic. um and I communication is a area that I've always struggled with because I'm more of a robot. I'm more of a, just boom, 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 fire, fire. So over my years of entrepreneurship and failing miserably and falling and failing miserably, I probably learned some of the skills that is actually better listening. And I think of it as better communication. Because I think listening can happen in other ways. It doesn't actually have to be with your ears. So maybe that's like what we talk about, of like other ways, other avenues that we can listen to people, whether it's emails, feedback surveys, whatnot. But because a lot of listening, I think, especially for businesses, happen outside of conversations.
Mhm.
So I think maybe we can talk a little bit about maybe that, of what you've seen might have worked for other businesses, or you have a large team, and some of them work night shift, morning shifts, some work weekends, some don't work weekends. How to increase that level of intimacy when maybe you're not having that one-on-one
Mhm.
physical interaction.
You mentioned what are some of the biggest mistakes folks make. I would imagine, just in the spirit of this conversation, because pharmacists have such a unique area of expertise, one of the biggest challenges I presume y'all have is the bias of expertise. We all have biases, right? But the fact that y'all are experts and that you've talked to a bunch of Bradleys a million times, the presumption of, oh my gosh, I know where this is going and I have a million things to do, is one of the greatest mistakes we can make. So one tactic that I was taught at Georgetown that I try to impart on the folks who I teach is the beauty of 7 what questions to get to the heart of the matter. That the initial concern a loved one presents you, a, a customer presents you, a patient presents you, a colleague presents you, is nearly never the full story. Nearly never. And as you peel away the layers on the onion, you get to the heart of the matter. And no surprise that the heart of the matter is also where connection exists. And I can only imagine, in terms of driving revenue, repeat customers are gigantic. Come on back to us. We're different than the big box down the road. You're known here. And that knowing is such an opportunity. Even if you're like, all right, 2 + 2 = 4, you know you're going to get to 4. To have the discipline around asking, maybe you won't get to 7, that just, the sweet spot of these what questions, but can you get 2 or 3 what questions down the road a little bit, just to peel back that onion, let the person be heard, be seen, be known, be connected with, and also holding a space that you might just be surprised. And what comes up there, and I just want to offer this, is the silent hidden cost of not listening well. I would think is super significant in y'all's space. One of the reasons why we think we listen well is because we rarely experience cause and effect of not listening well. Lisa, you and I, we've got big personalities. We love life and we like to joke around. And then all of a sudden, I say a joke that does not land well. And I know immediately, oops, went too far. Sorry, let me keep this PG-13. However, and so it's immediate. However, with not listening well, we rarely ever get to see the consequences of our actions. And wow, are the stakes high when you talk about the health of another, that maybe you missed something. And so I just offer that little bit of heaviness for y'all. Your professionalism, your expertise could be your biggest bias, and as a result, your biggest blind spot in terms of listening well.
I appreciate you going there. I definitely felt that because um, I've experienced enough in my life now that I've had the opportunity to experience the negative outcomes.
Mm.
And I think, and maybe it's just me in my maturing middle life age. Um, I think a lot of us when we were younger, we don't have that opportunity for that experience yet. And that's why, younger people act a certain way and older people don't. And you gain certain um, maturity levels and things like that. But um, you're here to tell us that, we don't have to accidentally get there. You don't have to pitfall, fall, and then figure it out. And the reason that I was so excited to bring you into the summit, you're going to be having the book, you're going to be doing a full deep dive on this session, but this is something people can learn, like riding a bike, like anything else. This is a skill set. Would you include this in the emotional intelligence umbrella, or is it just kind of a human skill set outside of that? Um,
I think it's all of that. This is a soft skill that's critical. It's not a soft skill that's superfluous. This is a soft skill that moves every needle of your life. And I'm super excited to be with your crew because I say this really confidently and believe it passionately that in our time together, we're going to level everybody up to a 90th percentile in the world listener. Now, those next 10%, that requires some refining, some evolution of self. There's more there. But I'm telling you, this is a superpower that can move every needle in our lives. And through the tips, tricks, and the fun practice stuff that we'll do, literally folks are going to leave at a 90th percentile. One, because the world's so bad at it. So sorry, the data is in our favor.
the bar's a little
The
low.
bar is so gosh darn low. But two, because this lever to pull, it's easy to pull, and the ROI is dramatic. And it's also just fun stuff to do. That just raising folks' awareness to these simple tips, tricks, tactics, and strategies that they're going to be able to invest in their professional and personal lives immediately. I'm not kidding. Like the subtitle, my working subtitle of my book, you guys kind of used at the start, how to make more money, how to have better sex, like how to repair your relationships, improve your marriage, connect with your kids, build, cultivate the best pharmacy ever imaginable. At the heart of this is one skill, and that's listening. More information, more intimacy. And we're gonna have a ton of fun doing it because like the tips, tricks, and tactics and the stuff we do from like stand up, we do like stand up improv comedy to, really sharing with each other. Like we have a ton of fun experiences. We do some games and stuff, but truly we'll have a ton of fun. But at the end of the day, the deliverable is you're emerging a 90th percentile listener on the planet.
So I have obviously since we were introduced, I went and started following your social media, and you got some good ones on there. We'll be sharing some of those too. But if somebody's like, "Hey, this sounds like something I want to do," and I can't wait till March because so all of you that have a Pharmacy Profit Summit ticket are going to get a deep dive with Bradley James Davies into how to listen better. And like you said, you're going to leave with being in the 90th percentile. But what are some things that people can be doing now in the meantime? Because now we've created this awareness that they probably suck at listening. and
Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
and we have some overachievers in our audience that want to go out maybe and start fixing that. So what are some things that they can do now before they get to Dallas in March?
Okay, I'll just kind of try to claim what I imagine are a few components of their lives. So, one, professionally. If you're at the leadership table, I want to challenge you to go last. I want to challenge you to go last, and we talked about that. Um, there's a wonderful YouTube video called Leadership Lessons from Dancing Guy. Have you seen this?
I have not. Now I've got to go find it. I
So
will
I
find it
bet
for everybody and send it in the recording. So say it again, say the title again.
Leadership Lessons from Dancing Guy. It is absolutely tremendous, and it speaks to this concept of leaders speaking last. So I won't go into it now. Maybe we'll share it when we're together in March. So one for leaders, try to go last. Number two for leaders, you mentioned email and correspondence with folks working different hours. Try for this is for, in terms of your leadership role in your life, try to reframe the statements you're inclined to make into questions. Now, we will go into the anatomy of a high quality question. We'll go into question kryptonite, but at the heart of next level listening is beginning to learn how to ask better questions. I love the quote that the quality of our lives, the quality of our families, the quality of our relationships, the quality of our pharmacies is in direct proportion to the quality of the questions we ask of others and ourselves. And one good way to do that is when you're about to make a statement, can you reframe it as a question and not a leading question? Can you just ask more questions? So in terms of leadership, that's my encouragement. If you're on this call or listening later and you're a member of the team, so you're not at the head of the table, but you're a member of the team, my invitation is for you to embrace a lesson we teach kindergartners, and that is three then me. Be mindful of how often you're talking at the table. Now, this works at the family dinner table as well, by the way, and especially Thanksgiving when you get all the crazy together. Okay? Three then me. There's this great movie called Rounders, if you haven't seen it. It's about poker. And in Rounders, they talk about this concept in poker that if you're at the table after 30 minutes and you can't spot the chump, then you're the chump at the table. So if you're at the leadership table or thinking of your leadership team and you can't think of the person who speaks too much, you might be the person who speaks too much. So one way to immediately level up your listening is to think three then me. I'm not going to interject and offer my perspective until three others have shared theirs. So that's if you're at the leadership team, on the leadership team. Parents on the call, if you want to immediately level up your connection with your kids via listening, I want you to embrace the great real estate maxim of location, location, location. Here is not the location to try to help your child process their day. And I know we all want a QR code on our kids' heads. We know everything, their feelings, their thoughts. Like we want to relive their whole school day. We want it all because we don't love another organism on the planet more. Location, location, location. Refrain from asking them to process their day immediately after school. Wait. Just wait. Because think about it. How eager are you to process your day with your partner or friends right when you get done working? Near zero of us. We need a moment. And to honor that space for kids that they need a moment. So when, Bradley, when is the right time and location? A magical time is when you're tucking them into bed at night. The lights are low, depending on the age. Maybe you've cuddled up, maybe you've read a story, and then offer this one question. Hey, buddy. Hey, sweetheart. What would you like to share with me about your day today? And watch some magic come out. Now, 3 days out of 5, it might be nothing. It might be conked out before you get to the end of the story. But in that low light, you're cuddling up. It's not face to face. You might be cuddling up or you're at the end of the bed. Watch the magic come out in terms of connecting. So those are some just, quick tips in terms of different parts of their world. Oh, I've got to name this one too. One of the best questions in the world you can ask, if you never ask another question in your life, if you only ask this question, personally, professionally, the question is 2 words. It's what else? So in terms of who you all are as partners in your romantic relationships, sweetheart, what else? I believe can save marriages, level up marriages around the planet. If we have the discipline, remember, listening is hearing plus intention, and intention is choosing our choices. If we have the discipline where our partner is processing something, even if we think it's crazy time, Even if we're like, oh my gosh, I can solve this in 2 seconds. If we choose to honor that intimate space, sweetheart, thank you for sharing. What else? Because remember, what we initially present is never the full story. And the heart of the matter rests behind a few open-ended what questions. And one of the easiest to remember and most powerful simply is what else? And you add a sweet preamble onto that, and it's money. Sweetheart, what else? So that's parent, professional, partner. That's how folks can level up their lives in terms of listening immediately. But come join us in March, and we're going to rock it and have a ton of fun doing it. And again, my promise is folks are going to leave 90th percentile. And everyone on this call and every pharmacist on the planet is like a high achiever. You know what I mean? Y'all did well in school. So right when you hear 90th percentile, you're like, okay, that's not so bad. So come join us, and we'll learn to change the world because, we don't talk, tweet, or post our way to a better world, but we might just listen our way there.
Dude, I got chills and they're multiplying. I can't sing it, so but you can just imagine it. But that is why I invited you to speak.
I
So
love
I truly believe that this session is going to be transformational. So if you're not aware of what the Pharmacy Profit Summit is or when it is, here's all of us in our cute cowboy hats.
Nice.
We do have a Western theme this year with all of the Western entertainment that you can imagine. It's going to be super fun. I believe in working hard and playing hard. So the summit this year is a Saturday, Sunday. Yay! March 28th, 29th in Dallas. We are talking about all kinds of things from obviously listening to AI, hiring, delegation, profitable non-PBM revenue, like the whole shebang. We help you improve your whole pharmacy. So get your ticket, pharmacyprofitsummit.com. For those of you that are Pharmacy Badass University members, do not buy from here. You want to buy from inside the membership so you get your discount price because you all pay less than the public folks. If you're a member, make sure you use the link inside the membership there. And then I want to open it up just as we wrap this up here. Our Pharmacy Badass University. Yes, if you're not a member, please come join us. Our basic membership is where I recommend most people start. It's $100 a month, and I guarantee you will make back more than your $100 either through discounts. We have, we're close to 40 partners with discounts, so you'll save money, or with all of our revenue streams and tactics and things like that we give you. So come join us. The basic level membership, all of our levels of membership come with no contracts, no minimums, and a completely 100% money back guarantee. If you don't love it, I don't want your bad juju money, and we'll just remain friends. So that's the way I live my life. So now it's time for Q&As. If anybody had any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I think you just did a fantastic job of I think you brought an awareness to all of us. We're now probably all sitting here thinking, we all need to become better listeners, and we probably are not as good as we think we are. So I didn't see any questions pop up, but I want to make sure and honor everybody's time and get you back to your day. So thank you, Bradley. I look forward to having you at the summit. I look forward to your book, and follow him on Instagram and all the socials. And we'll put that information inside the email with the recording on this, because we know a lot more of you are going to be listening to the recording. And I can't wait to see you all in Dallas. So thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.